Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. So let's get started. Of course, at the end of the video, we do talk about the viewer's pick of the week, so if you have a pick of the week, and you want to have a chance to be featured on the episode, definitely let me know in the comments below your pick. Now, jumping into this week's books, I had about 11 books, so a pretty average sized haul. Number 11 for me was Miss Marvel and Venom, issue 1. This is the last issue of the crossover team up issues, and Miss Marvel is teaming up with not just Venom, but she teams up with like Wolverine and the other characters that she teamed up, Moon Knight, that she teamed up in those other one shots, and you get to see the culmination of this kind of larger plot come to an end, which was pretty much fight the bad guy type plot. There wasn't much meat on the bones for this one, which is why it's so low for me. And the art's okay. The overall story is like, you could be a hero even if you were a villain, and you could be a villain even if you were a hero, and the end. It was a pretty simple story. If you're looking for more Miss Marvel, it's here, but I don't think it really gives much meat, like I said. So giving that 2 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is a book I was looking forward to, the '06 Protocol, issue 6. It's a new Aftershock book, and it has to do with a mother and daughter who wants to get, I guess, revenge on the person who killed their husband/father. And I thought the dialogue work was very stilted. It took a while to get to the point, and then once we did and we learned the father was an assassin, you don't actually get to see a lot from the daughter and mother to kind of build up this relationship and build up this journey, where it kind of just left me off of, this is an interesting plot, but I don't know if I love the execution. And I thought that the artwork was also a bit stilted here as well. It just wasn't as impressive as I thought the potential was. So overall, giving that 2 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, a book I got on whim, actually, and that is The Least We Can Do, issue 1. I like female lead action leads, so I was like, all right, this looks interesting. The art looks really fun and cartoony, but I'm not usually a fan of fantasy and like medieval stuff, so I was like, oh, this might be a risk to take, and I think the risk ended up happening, where it just wasn't a genre I normally like, which is, magic and spells and all that stuff. So, I just wasn't into this one. I couldn't get into the character, even though I think she was pretty bubbly. I just couldn't sink my teeth into it, where I was like, oh, I gotta get this next issue. But it definitely is for somebody. If you like the YA, again, magical side of things, I think it's definitely written for you. And the artwork is really good for this book. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Daredevil issue 3, a book that I loved. I loved Daredevil, the previous volume, and this one I still think it has a lot of missteps. It's kind of slow. This one is definitely about getting the pawns in places that you need them to be for kind of this bigger battle. There's a lot of political talk, literally between politicians and Daredevil, and just seeing who is Daredevil without Matt Murdock, and we get a little bit more from the villain that's kind of building up. We get some information through Matt about Elektra, and then the thing I probably liked the most about this issue was seeing Foggy and Matt team up. That is literally the cliffhanger of the issue, so we didn't get a lot of it. And I like seeing Luke Cage and seeing what he's been up to, but it's not exactly what intrigues me. I didn't love Devil's Reign, so I didn't really love the Luke Cage arc either, even though I like him as a character a lot. But it's just kind of a sizzle for me, where I feel like previously this book was always on its A game. But the artwork's really good. I still enjoy the art style, still like the grittiness of it all, so giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue 15. Very much a filler arc as we get into Superman returning. And, I want to like this book more than I do, because I love Tom Taylor's writing. I love the idea of having bisexual representation, and I like John within this series, and especially in the beginning of this series, but I do feel like it's a book that's been spinning its wheels a lot. There's some good character moments here, but not a lot of long character moments, so it's like, Damian fighting for his best friend, and then you get a little moment between Jay and John, and that he's kind of been outs himself to the world, and we'll see the ramifications of that. It was very almost reminiscent to the Bendis Superman reveal, and it's like, all right, well, how's this not just going to affect John, but how's this going to affect Jay? I think there's some promise there, but we're also building into this kind of bigger moment with Clark returning to Earth. So it's like, oh, are we rushing things here? Couldn't have this been the whole arc for this previous one where I felt like it was just spinning its wheels because I didn't really love the villain. The artwork is solid enough. So, you know, I think this book still has potential, but it hasn't really hit the marks that I've wanted. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Batgirls, issue 10. I love this cover, the Harley Quinn anniversary cover. But, you know, this is a book that's on my pull list because I love Batgirl, but I always say this, I don't think it's written for me. It's very, very all ages, I would say, and there's not a lot of progression in the book. There's a lot of, again, kind of going back to what the Superman note I had, although I would even say Superman progresses a little bit more. It's just the characters doing fun things. You know, you get to see Barbara with Dick, we get to see some stuff between Cass and Steph, but there's not a lot of growth. There's not a lot of moments where you're like, oh, I'm seeing this friendship unfold between Cass and Steph. It's just like these one notes between each other. I want to see the adventure where their friendship is tested, or, you know, we just get to see their friendship grow. And same thing between their mentorship with them and Barbara as well. So I just kind of want a little bit more from this series. I do think the artwork has improved, and again, I think there's some small moments I enjoy, but it hasn't really struck me here. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, a book I got kind of on whim, just because I wanted to see Black Cat with superpowers, and that is Edge of Spider-Verse issue 3. I did get issue 1, and I was like, oh, I don't really love the anthology style. I didn't get issue 2 for that reason, but then I saw Black Cat here, and I saw the Chris Hanka cover, so I was like, okay, let me see what this is all about. And you know, I still have the same problems that I did with that first issue. I feel like there's such potential with all these stories, but they're so short, and you're like, well, where is this going to continue? Why do we have like 10, 15 characters that we're introducing? Why don't we use the original Edge of Spider-Verse mentality where Spider-Gwen had her own issue? We got to see Spider-Man Noir with his own issue where you could kind of tell a beginning, middle, and end one shot. We're here, literally, for the first story, which is Spider-Man India, we just get to see him explain who he is, and then it's just over. And you're like, oh, okay, I just got into this story. And then even Night Spider, I think there were some really good moments here, which is why it's higher on my list. Like, I liked her as a character. I love the art. I think they introduce a really cool supporting cast. And then it's just kind of over. She gets her powers and that's it. And it felt very rushed. And then you have this really, really cool looking manga style book with the last story. I'm like, this is a cool concept. I want to see more. And it just kind of ends. And you're like, okay, well, maybe it'll be in Spider-Man issue 1, but do I have to wait that long? And it's not like I'm getting their individual stories. They're probably just going to show up there. So I was a little disappointed with that aspect and just the function of this book. So overall, giving that 3 stars, and that is number 5. Speaking of Spider-Man, number 4 is The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 9. And this I'm kind of conflicted with because I think this is one of the better issues of the series, but kind of comes too late because we had the Hellfire Gala months ago. It's a one-shot that's been over. So now we get to see a tie-in to the Hellfire Gala, an event that happened a while ago. And we get to see Mary Jane taken over by Mora, which has been built up, not in this series, but we saw it built up in like Free Comic Book Day, maybe an X-Men book here and there, and then we get to see this here. And I just felt like, you know, if you're only reading Spider-Man, because there's probably plenty of people that don't get a lot of comic books and just like, I really love Spider-Man, or they're just getting into comics and they only have like a few books on their pull list, and then they pick up this, you're like, when did this all happen? What? I was just reading about Norman Osborn and now we're here in this X-Men gala. It just felt so sudden, but I like the moments here. I do like the build up. I enjoyed you know, just seeing Spider-Man at this gala, having fun, interacting with different characters. And finally, we do get to see Mary Jane and Spider-Man interact, even if Spider-Man was not that surprised that Moira was taking over Mary Jane. I thought that would be a little bit more of a reveal. But in the end, you get a little tidbit of maybe what's happening between them. And she's like, oh, it has to do with responsibilities. So it's like, oh, maybe she's got something else going on. And there's just a bigger picture with this other guy that she's with. So, yeah, no, I'm interested to see where that goes. But I don't want to wait until issue 50 to find out what happens next, which Spider-Man has been tending to do. Artwork is a big improvement. You know, we have Patrick Gleason back on the book, and that was a lot of fun to see for the more fashion forward comic book. So overall, I gave that 3 stars. You know, I definitely think it's a better issue, but I don't know. This is a little conflicted with that one. Moving on to number 3, a book that really surprised me, and that is Midnight Suns, issue 1. I won't say I got this on whim. I was planning on getting it because I love Nico. I'm a big Runaways fan, and I always want to like Magic. She's a character I think that looks so cool and has so much potential, and I always try to pick up a book with her, and then I'm never satisfied with the character when I read her. But it was a cool team. It was also a weird team. We got, you know, them, but then we got Wolverine, and it all takes place in Strange Academy, which I thought was really interesting, and I think that's actually what made me enjoy this book a lot. Even though I'm not currently reading Strange Academy, it was built on some sort of foundation. It wasn't like, oh, we gotta introduce all these new characters. It's like, no, they all just so happen to be in the school, and this event happens where one of the students, it seems like she's gonna have an apocalypse of some sort and become evil and destroy the world. And it's a story we've seen a lot in Marvel, but it's from a different lens and a different set of characters, and I just want to see how they all interact. And I thought the art was really crisp, and it just seems like a really fun adventure. And yeah, no, I think this book has a lot of potential. I thought the setup was really good, so giving that 3.5 stars, and that's number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Do a Powerbomb, issue 4. This is definitely one of those point A to point B issues, but still a really solid point A to point B issue, where we get to see the building between our tag team, our main character, and her father that she does not know is her father, and also the killer of her mom. And then we also get introductions of some of the other characters that are in this tournament, and one of them being her uncle, who gets his neck broken by the end of this issue, and obviously he was also fighting for his sister to come back, and they're all fighting for the same person. And yeah, no, it was really interesting twist there, and you know, it's just building up this world even more. I love the art. I thought the fighting was really good for this one too. It was just a really solid issue for, again, something that was more of a point A to point B. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Artwork, as always, is always amazing, and some good action in this one too. Moving on to number 1, which is Batman vs. Robin, issue 1. This is a book I was super excited for. I love events that actually build in from individual stories, and this actually is built from 2 individual stories. So somewhat Robin, I feel like maybe some of the character development from Robin was left over there, but also from World's Finest, because Mark Waid, I won't say there's as many plot points from there, but Mark Waid is writing it, and there's, I think, supposed to be some connection. So maybe we'll find that out as more World's Finest issues come out. But the art feels premiere, you know, feels like, okay, this is going to be a big event. And then you have this opener of who is Robin, who is Damian Wayne. So if you never read a Batman or Robin book, it's a very easy way to jump in, which, you know, all comics, especially comics like this, should do. So they very quickly tell you who Robin is and what the problems are, and then Alfred comes back, and they explain it really well, where someone who knows, you know, that Alfred has died, it didn't feel like, oh, here's the exposition dump. It felt natural. It felt like, okay, you're telling people that are new readers what happened, but you're also giving some emotional to the people that already knew what happened. And it's definitely a fine balance, but they did it really well here. And it's truly Batman vs. Robin, where we get to see Robin's playing with some magic, which definitely plays with his roots of the Al Ghul family, while Batman is working with Alfred and, you know, obviously in kind of a shell shock mode as well, as he has to go up against his greatest enemy, who knows everything about him, which is Robin. And, you know, obviously you want to know why Robin's doing this. He's teaming up with his grandmother, which is the connection from the Robin series, and you want to know how he got here, because, again, he was in a kind of good place in the end of Robin, and now he's in this kind of more beginning stage of Damian Wayne, a little bit more egotistical, a little bit more wanting revenge, and I thought we did get past that in Robin, so I'm curious to see if that's gonna play a part in this series, because there is a lot of mystery behind this. And then also you get to see Zatanna, so you get to see some magic holders that are fan favorites. So overall, I thought it was a really solid beginning, good art, and it's exactly how I want to see an event unfold, you know, a build up from previous books and needing such a big arena, and I think Batman vs. Robin did a good job at that. So overall, giving that 4 stars. This is Comic Uno. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite comics of the week were, and last week it was the Alex Ross art book. Actually, it's not even just an art book, it's a Fantastic Four series, so go check that one out, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.